Have you ever heard someone say that all these kids need is love? It sounds so beautiful, doesn't it? Of course, love is vital. But if you've lived adoption or kinship care, you already know the harder truth that love alone isn't going to erase the loss, the trauma, the identity struggles that our kids carry. And love, it doesn't mean that love isn't powerful, because it really is. It just means that parenting these kids asks us to hold both the joy of family and the pain of separation, the bond of love and the weight of what was lost. And as an adoptive parent, you're going to have to hold both of those. And that's really hard. Parents heard. Here's something I wish more parents heard. Needing more than love doesn't mean that you're failing. It means you're human. And you're raising a child whose story began with loss, even if it was when they were really tiny. And if you're in kinship care, you may have been a part of that child's life from the beginning, but it doesn't take away the fact that they lost people that were supposed to be there, no matter how we look at it. And there is all kinds of evidence that it still affects kids. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't adopt these children. They still need you, and they still needed you to step in when you did. I think that as parents, we just sometimes need permission to say, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I talk to a lot of grandparents or great-grandparents or aunts and uncles that are raising their kids. And I think because it's in the family, we think it's not going to be that hard, but it is hard. And so having that permission to say, like, this is harder than I thought it would be, that doesn't mean that you don't love your kids or that you don't care. Remember that because you're struggling, it means you do care, right? Like, we're struggling because it matters. And it doesn't mean that we're failing. It opens the door. It's not weakness, it's honesty, and it opens the door for real tools and real support. Let me tell you about a mom that I worked with. She adopted her nephew after his parents couldn't care for him. And she loved him fiercely. And there was never a question of that. She loved him from the beginning. But she came to me exhausted. And she said, I don't understand. Like, I give him everything. Stability, love, attention, and he still just pushes me away. He melts down over the smallest things. And sometimes I feel like he doesn't even want me. And what she didn't realize yet was that her nephew was not rejecting her love. He was testing it. In some ways, his brain and body had learned early on that caregivers disappear and that safety can't be trusted. And also the trauma of all of that and can rewire the brain as well. And we don't know. Like, sometimes it's because of what happened, in utero, but it's also the trauma of losing whatever stage that was at. And a lot of times on top of that, we're talking about kids that have ADHD or other diagnosis, right? And so, every outburst for this mom, aunt that was now a mom, every wall he put up was a question that he's asking. Will you still be here if I make it really hard? But also, like, having to learn how to come around that, because the way that his brain was functioning and the way that he was trying to make sense of his world and stay in control of his world. So once she understood this, like, things really started to shift, because she started practicing co-regulation, helping him calm down, not so focused on, like, making him accountable or to pay or have consequences, as much as coming around it a different way. I still want there to be cause and effect, but just understanding that there is a different way. She built in predictable routines so that he knew what to expect, and she followed those routines too, so that he knew he could trust her when he wasn't trusting anybody. When kids have a outrageous behavior with other adults and with you, there's a level of trust that has not been reached yet. She learned how to advocate at the school when teachers labeled him defiant, and explaining that what they were really seeing was either neurodivergent or fetal alcohol or fear and dysregulation, which is also like all of that, right? So it wasn't an instant and it wasn't easy, but over time, that love combined with the tools created to change, that's what made the difference. He didn't stop struggling altogether, but now he had a safe parent with confidence who could meet him in the storm instead of being pulled under by it. And these kids, like, they need to know that somebody is going to ride through this storm and know what to do. Even if later you're like, or even during it, you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, right? You're going to be that confident anchor in the storm. And she finally felt less alone. Adoption and kinship care are layered, and attachment struggles can go both ways. Kids can push parents away, and sometimes parents may feel completely disconnected too. You might not feel very loving to a child that is destroying things in your house, or telling you they hate you, or that you're not their real mom, or wanting, somebody else other than you. And that's normal, and you need to allow yourself to feel that and to know that that's normal. Many families are navigating trauma triggers, identity questions, and behaviors that feel completely overwhelming. And so this work that I do in helping adoptive families, it's not about fixing kids. If I could fix your kid, I would, right? But it's about equipping parents with the tools to show up differently, to be able to handle it, to not have to send your kid who already has layers of attachment disorders away, and unless that's what we have to do. And then I want to help you to maneuver that, because that is a big thing when a kid gets sent away that already has trauma in this area, and how we can help you to show up differently and to make it through. It doesn't mean everything's going to go perfectly, and it doesn't mean that we're going to have best case, in everything. I adopted my youngest son, and it's taken a lot of years to start to see his brain to kind of come back around. And there's more moments now where we start to see that. He's 25 and he has the extra help around him. And I'm not sorry that I adopted him. I've never been sorry that I adopted him, because I know that this is really hard for him too. And it's been really hard for me as a parent, even as an expert in this field, to be able to use the tools and to have hope. And so you need somebody that's going to give you that, right? Because advocating for your child, like in a school meeting, or creating structure at home, or saying no in a safe and firm way, it can be really challenging. And it's not you just overreacting or you just being that mom, right? That's parenting kids who have been through something hard. And don't be afraid to get some help with that. So what does it look like in practice? A few things that I teach families through the Healthy Foundations family program I want to give to you today. The first one is connection. And that connection and goes hand in hand with meeting the child's need for safety and relationship. So it's not about disciplining them. A lot of parents will come to me and they're like, I just need to know what to do about what he did, right? And I said, I want you to know what to do because of the things that he's doing, and how to help him to move through that behavior, away from that behavior. And that's going to take some connecting skills, and this usually comes at a time when you are up to here and with this child and you don't want to do it, and that's okay. But there's some things that we do because that's what we have to do, and I don't ask you to have warm and fuzzy feelings about it. We just have to really work on that connection from an adult point towards a child. Your child is trying to level the playing field and have control so that there's not an adult-child relationship. And that's part of what makes it so hard to connect, because they don't want to connect to you as a child. They're trying to almost one-up you as the adult, because they've learned that somehow that is safer. But we have to show them that meeting their needs for safety and relationship is really, really important. And it's important for them for ongoing, even if they don't feel like they get it totally, right? The other thing is structure and predictability. routines that reduce anxiety and help kids know what's coming next. And that is super important. They need to know that you're going to do what you say. And it doesn't mean that, I have a lot of parents with adopted kids because the kids are so controlling about the schedule. Like, you said, we're going to do this. They can't remember where their shoes are, but they can remember a word that you said, I don't know, a week ago or a month ago. They also remember it the way they remember it. So this is about creating that structure and that predictability so that those routines can reduce their anxiety and parents can be in charge, and that kids get to be kids. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it is something that you need help to create. Co-regulation. This is parents modeling calm, but helping kids in their rise of emotions, in the struggle, right, to get regulated instead of escalating with them. And even if you're escalated because you had to, I don't even know, like, keep them from harming themselves, keep them from all the things I've seen, kicking, hitting, destroying things, you are going to be dysregulated too. And teaching you how to calm down and walk through that with your child so that their brain can copy your brain. You need to know how to do that. It's so different than just being mad at yourself because you can't be calm all day long. This is not what this is about. This is helping your brain to do something different so that your child's brain can do something different. And then advocacy, like teaching, I teach parents that it's okay. You need to speak up at school or in therapy for what this child really needs. And that's a big piece of this that you may not have had to do with your other kids, or that you only have to do with your adopted kids, or maybe only one of your adopted kids, or your niece or nephew or grandchild. So don't, these tools that I want to give you, they don't erase the loss, but they give families ways to move forward together. And that's so critical, so important. I want you to have that feeling of like, this is hard, it's challenging, it's totally, you can do it, you're up for it, but it's a way to move forward together. And sometimes that moving forward is going to feel like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, another step back, 5 steps forward. And so you need kind of an advocate for yourself through that, because it is really, really hard. And if you don't have that, it's going to feel a lot like whack-a-mole, right? Like a problem comes up and you're whacking it, and trying to keep in front of all of it. And it can be so much better than that. So here's what I want to leave you. Adoption and kinship care will always hold both joy and loss, love and trauma, connection and disconnection. It's not a straight line. And you should just love them more, try harder. I'm going to do better tomorrow. Just hear this. Your struggle does not mean that you're failing. It means that you are doing the hard human work of parenting kids whose stories begin with loss. And a lot of times you are parenting kids that nobody else took on this challenge. Nobody else wanted that. That was certainly true in the case with my son. There was no one else that was going to step up and do it. And there were a lot of times that at night I would remind myself, like, of course this is hard. Of course it's hard, because I'm doing something that the natural people that should have done it were not doing it. And it's okay, because I'm not trying to replace the loss in this child's life. I'm going to help him to move through his life in the best ways that I can. Families I've seen that thrive are not the ones that have it all figured out. They're the ones who paused, who asked for help, who kept showing up, even when it was messy, even when they didn't want to tell a group of parents that their kid hit the TV with the remote because the parent was trying to get it away from them, or, whatever the crazy thing is that you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I must be the worst parent ever, right? They used the tools that built safety and structure, and they leaned into connection, and they learned to advocate fiercely when their child needed it the most. And when they were beating themselves up because they didn't feel warm and fuzzy feelings, they had someone there saying, it's okay. Care is also love. Care is also love. We're going to do what we do because we care and we want to create safety. And safety is love. Love is vital. but it really needs to be paired with these tools, with understanding and a supportive community. And that's what helps kids to heal. And that's what helps you to keep going as a parent. That's what makes family possible, even in the middle of all these layers that it is. So I want you to give yourself permission to hold both, to be able to celebrate the joy and to acknowledge the pain, to love deeply and still admit that this is hard, not because it's weakness, but it makes you the safe and steady parent that your child needs the most. And that is critical.